Hello lovely YouTubing people. So I'm back, and as properly promised, the video is labelled up with the big old number 2 hysterectomy label, so you know exactly what you're getting, so you can't say you weren't warned. And this week we're going to talk all about feeling all the feelings. You know, we're going to talk about being okay with what you feel and kind of having to live with it. Now, I was in hospital for a couple of days, and that's kind of where I left it on my last video. And when I came out of the hospital, I came out with, still with the cancer word hanging over here on my left shoulder, although I came out with a lot more clarity around that subject. I came out having had a good long chat with the surgeon and a doctor registrar, I think, before I left. And they basically said there will be surgery. There's no getting away from it. Whether it was going to be whole hysterectomy surgery, partial surgery, the mass and one ovary, or they really weren't sure, and they didn't want to make a rash decision. They wanted, you know, other specialists and just other sets of eyes in their own field to have a look at my results, which is great. But what they did say is that it wouldn't be a slow process. You know, even though when I came out, it was like, I don't know, 7-8 days before Christmas or something like that. They were like, things were going to start moving. It wasn't going to be 6, 8, 10 months. Don't expect the drag. Prepare yourself for surgery. And that's basically what she said to me. My surgeon said, mentally prepare yourself for some sort of surgery. You know, best case scenario, we'll take pieces. You know, worst case scenario, we're going to take everything. So I came out of hospital on whatever day it was, a Thursday, I think, potentially, and it was a few days before Christmas. And in all honesty, I knew that they were concerned and worried, but we had kind of got the pain under control. So I was still really uncomfortable, but I could kind of move about. And so they would rather take their time, and this is how they explained it to me, to schedule the surgery and make sure everything was kind of organised and that we'd discussed all the options. And so if we could manage the pain in that time, it was going to be better all round and an all round calmer process for us to do that. So on the day I came out, within that kind of first 24 hours, I was kind of in like shock, I suppose. And I remember everything being foggy, just in a bubble, you know, nothing kind of impacted. I was still just trying to concentrate on putting one foot in front of the other. And I think a lot of the feelings that revolve around gynecological surgery is very much at the heart of, you know, femalehood and who we are. So there are women that go into this situation being told that they have to have, you know, potentially a full hysterectomy, and they are happy. They've had lots and lots of problems over a long period of time. They've had lots of pain and period discomfort and all that kind of thing, and this is the answer to them. And so I would imagine that there's a lot of relief around the eventual decision to do a hysterectomy. For me, it hasn't gone that way. It was very quick and very sudden, and I had no idea that anything was wrong. So those first few days out of the hospital, I didn't get the chance to be happy or sad or angry, or I didn't get the chance to feel any marked emotion that I could label, because I think my brain was still in a state of confusion where I'm trying to process what they're telling me. And there is that other half of my brain that, even though I had context and I had clarity and I'd asked all the questions about the cancer markers in the blood and all that kind of thing, even though I had context that, you know, the risks were slight, there is still that fear at the back of your mind. And that kind of outweighed everything for the first few days. The overarching sense of doom, I suppose, in a way, sits with you, and it is just an effort to kind of put one foot in front of the other and appear as normal as you possibly can for your family. And there are probably people stamping their feet all over the place listening to me say that, because you shouldn't have to, put on a front. And I agree, sort of. My children, I know they're teenagers and they're, well on the way to being young adults. I've said before, my son is 16, my girls are 13. But I want to be brave for them. I want to be honest with them, but I also don't want them to potentially go into situations in their life where they feel like this kind of thing is a shutdown. So yes, there are days when you come out of that kind of being told that kind of information, and my only focus was really to answer any questions that they wanted me to answer, that I could answer, and also to just kind of continue on as normal. Our house was in a state of flux anyway, because the mass had twisted. I've already told you that, but it caused a lot of pain and discomfort, and it meant I can't do a good number of things. So effectively I can drive, and I did ask before I left the hospital if that was okay, and she said, drive as long as you're comfortable, don't drive long distances. As it is, I can drive for about 10-15 minutes. I can't hoover, because that motion pulls on the muscles down the right hand side, and I think it pulls on more than that, to be honest, but I don't think too deeply about it. And little things that you can't do. So washing your hair in the shower has become a real chore, because I can get my left hand up, but I can't get my right hand up that high. So we were already living in an unusual state that we wouldn't normally be living in, because I was having to constantly ask people for help. Asking people for help is not something I'm good at. And I think that is, again, another one of those mum traits, that asking people for help is hard. We do just tend to keep going, especially asking my children for help. My children are great. They have their moments like every other child, but for the most part, I can ask them to do things and they will just do it. But there are things that I do for them because I like to do it, because I'm their mum. And not being able to do those things really causes guilt. So I think we're going to talk about guilt for a bit. Now, guilt is one of those emotions that can make you do stupid things. It can make you try and do things that you probably shouldn't do. It can make you push yourself in sort of physically in ways that aren't good for you at that time. And I really struggle with guilt. So if you can hear that noise, that's my Labrador. Sorry about that. So guilt was one of those things that really kind of struck me quite hard. Not for the first few days, but once it kind of kicked in that there was going to be an extended period of time, a good number of weeks, whereby I was going to be kind of living like this, hanging about, waiting to ask people to come home from school and work so that they could help me to do things. And so as well as feeling kind of frustrated and slightly put out, I think my nose was slightly put out of joint by not being able to do things, I had this guilt that was kind of lingering around, that, I'm their mum, I'm supposed to do the do. And I'm really lucky in the fact that I work from home. So I didn't have a work schedule to juggle. I didn't have that feeling that I was kind of letting down work colleagues, which was a benefit, which is a real benefit. And I can fiddle my schedule about. So, that was a positive. She couldn't make more noise if she tried. So that was a positive. But being here day after day, being able to do very little. I mean, I can't load the washing machine well, I can put stuff in, but I can't get it out because I can't pick it up. I can't do the shopping because I can't get the bags out of the trolley and into the car. There's all kinds of weird and wonderful things that you think, oh, I'll go and do that, and you can't do them. And I suppose that kind of kicked me out of those emotions of fear and panic and worry, because I was kind of frustrated and slightly angry. So, you know, negative emotions battling each other was kind of helpful in a strange way. But what I can say is that I was really conscious to try and acknowledge all the feelings. I didn't pretend that I was fine. I didn't pretend that I wasn't feeling them. I didn't try and just push through, as it were. I was careful who I shared that kind of stuff with. So that would be the other thing I'd say, is that if you're going through anything like this, find someone that you trust, and talk. Definitely let out the stuff that you are feeling, and that can be really hard for the person that you trust. So, you know, my husband is, you know, he's my rock, and it's hard for him to listen to me talk about this kind of thing because he cares about me too, and he's worried as well. But at the moment, it's just important that we keep moving. So we're kind of trying to communicate as best as we can and not worry or upset each other. And I don't mean upset as in annoy and make each other angry. I mean that, you know, there are hard topics to talk about with this kind of thing. You know, any kind of surgery comes with risks. And you as the person that's having the surgery, you are allowed to worry about those risks. And it is healthy for you to want to voice those risks. So, and you'll feel better for it. You'll feel better for voicing those risks as well. But there comes a time, I think, or there came a time for me when I got to the stage where I just kind of thought, I can't borrow trouble. I can't borrow any more trouble. There are worst case scenarios and I have thought about them, but now I have to be done. Now I have to be done thinking about them, and now I have to concentrate on the things that I can change, the things that I can do, and the things that we can move forward, because there is no hiding the fact that our home life at the moment is in stasis. We're just kind of stuck. We're treading water, waiting to get to the surgery, waiting to, you know, get the biopsy on the other side, and waiting to see how the healing process goes. And that's it. That is the focus of the moment. But life still has to continue in some form of normalcy. My kids have still got to go to school. My son's still got to go to college. There's, you know, my oldest still works part-time, and my husband's still got to go to work, and dentists, dogs and vets and snow, all those kinds of things are still ticking on by. And to be honest, they help. They help me to just keep going. And when I got home from the hospital, within a couple of days, I had an appointment with the registrar for the 27th of December, which is blooming fantastic when you think about how mad Christmas is, and, you know, the hospitals, you know, they have days where they shut too. And so we go down to the hospital on the 27th, and my husband comes with me to meet with the registrar. And at this point, my MRI and all my results have been through at least two sets of teams. So it's been in front of 8-9 specialists, which is wonderful. And we go down, you know, we wait, we go in and we meet with the registrar, and she pulls all the results up, and she's lovely, really, really nice, really, really kind, very calm, which really works for me. And she says that I've got an 8.5 centimetre mass on my ovary, a 2.3 centimetre mass just underneath on the right hand side, but on the left hand side they can now see that I've got 3 smaller cysts. The 3 smaller cysts aren't anything to worry about, but in light of the fact how everything's kind of kicked off all at once, she feels that the best point is for a full hysterectomy, and that's kind of that. She was able to reiterate the fact during that appointment that obviously they can't rule out cancer, but they are happy to confirm that the risk is very slight, and they're more concerned about the hysterectomy and the surgery. So this is within a week of coming out of the hospital. I think it was like day 8, day 9, nothing to speak of. And the sense of relief is absolutely consuming. I cannot describe to you the sense of relief, even though that word is still there, it's still lingering around. To hear someone say, well, we've looked at it and obviously we can't rule it out, but we can see a lot of fluid, it looks like a cyst, this and that. And suddenly the hysterectomy word doesn't seem that bad anymore. you just get this rush for life. And for me, that was like the uptake in the middle. After sitting for a week and churning, really, that was like the light. It was the thing that I clawed at. And so we came home from the appointment, and she'd kind of said, so this is what we're thinking we're going to do. And we had a bit of a chat about it. We asked lots of questions, and she said, you'll get your pre-op appointment through, and we are looking to have the whole process wrapped up within 5 to 6 weeks from now. So I come home and we tell our parents, and everything feels better. And then it was a funny thing. It was a couple of days later, and everyone was in bed, and it was on the run up to New Year's Eve, and I'd had a glass of wine, and I sat there and I just kind of thought, I'm too young to have a hysterectomy. I'm only 42. And it came out of nowhere. And I turned to my husband and I said to him, I said, I'm only 42. Why do I have to have a hysterectomy? Surely they must be able to do something. And then your brain, I don't know if it's your brain or what, starts sort of tapping away and playing tricks at you. And I was sad, really bone deep sad. I went through a good week of mourning in a strange way, and it's very odd. I can't explain why you feel like that, or why I felt like that. I'm lucky, really, really bloody lucky. I've got my children. I definitely don't intend on having any more, but somehow my psyche, I suppose, is tied into the fact that a hysterectomy is something that women of my age don't have. And I know that's ridiculous. I know that's absolute nonsense, because my stepmom had a hysterectomy at 25. So I know that's the biggest load of old crap. But, your brain thinks funny things. And I've got no issue with the menopause. I'm going to have to go through it eventually. But I kind of hadn't planned on going through it at 42. And it just, I think it's just like the remainder. I think what happens is, or my take on it is that you take the most serious problem first, your mind, and it deals with that. And it keeps dealing with those serious problems in order until I finally got down to, but I don't want a hysterectomy. I'm not worried about the surgery. The doctors and the registrar have given me the utmost confidence, and we have to have things done. Sometimes we have to have things done, and we have to have things done. I am worried about the aftercare and things like that, or the after healing process, just because there's lots of, I don't want to say horror stories, but there are lots of accounts, different people's accounts of how they were healing after a hysterectomy. There's lots of those kinds of things out there. And as soon as you say hysterectomy to people have advice. Advice is great. I love advice, especially when it's, given freely and people because it's trying to help you. But I potentially needed a couple of days before I got bombarded, maybe. So I think I went through a mourning process of trying to come to terms with the fact that that part of me was going to be missing. And I was chatting to my daughter about it, and I mean, she's only sort of 13, and she said to me, she said, "What? So you won't have to have periods ever again?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Oh, you're so lucky." Okay. I would have thought that too before. But now I kind of think, well, they're all part of me. It's all part of me. That's all those all those bodily functions, all those pieces of my body are all things that make up me. And so I really tried to work with that. I really tried to think about it, and I tried to acknowledge those feelings and let them in. Because I think it would have been really easy to brush them off and go, well, you're being daft, it's very necessary, you've got to think of your health, blah, 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 get on with it. And that would be right, because there's no changing the fact that I have to have the surgery, and that's that. But, I'm also allowed to be sad about it. And I'm also allowed to be sad about the fact that this part of my life is coming to an end much more suddenly than I expected. And it's just taken some dealing with. So again, find someone you trust and talk to them. If you don't want to burden, and this is one of my little crackers pieces of advice for you. If you don't want to burden someone that you trust, if life is busy, or if you just don't want to, talk to yourself. Get 5 minutes on your own, stand in the kitchen, make a cup of tea, and have a chat with yourself about how you feel. Because sometimes thinking the thoughts isn't enough. You need to hear the words out loud. And you'd be surprised what will fall out of your mouth once you start talking, once you let yourself go unfiltered. And I have found it really healthy to say the words out loud and to admit, acknowledge and accept how I feel. And I don't necessarily want to feel all these feelings, and I don't necessarily think that they're all okay. Everything you feel is okay, even if you feel like it's a bit unnecessary. So don't batter your feelings away. Don't just kind of knock them out. Let them all pass through. I think it's all a process. And I think one set of feelings leads on to the next set of feelings, which takes you where you're supposed to go. Or at least that's my take on it. And, from my friends, they all know I can be a bit hippie. So, feeling all the feelings is something that I'm really for. I think it's important in, moving forward and growing and all that kind of thing. So that's this week's waffle about feelings. And it's probably, I would imagine, a bit garbled and a bit confused. And under any normal circumstances, I probably should have tried to kind of script this little video and put it together to make it make some kind of sense. But the process of feeling all these feelings and then the order that they came in didn't make any kind of sense. So I've left it as a random waffle of bits of jigsaw pieces that don't necessarily fit together. And to tell you that that's okay. It's okay to be afraid and worried and sad and guilty, and it's okay to feel all the feelings. But those feelings that can sometimes trap you in the fear, the worry and the panic and the what if, allow yourself a little bit of time to feel those feelings, because I think you need to. But then you do have to kind of, I think, get hold of them and put them in a box and not borrow trouble, because you'll get your answers soon enough. But you need to stay as mentally and physically strong as you can to deal with what's coming up. So I hope this has been useful or something. And I'll be back next week to talk about the actual whole process of what they're going to do, because there's a couple of different methods and ways that they can do it. And in and amongst the what they're going to do video, I shall talk a little bit about the healing and aftercare that's been advised. And then once that video's done, my surgery will be just after that. So then the videos will take a turn to what comes next and aftercare. It's been lovely to speak to you all, YouTubing people, and I'll see you soon.